Let's go to the Central and talk about the Cardinals. No, let's talk about the Brewers first. This one's very simple. Anybody who throws a baseball. Like the Mets, their starting pitching is really shoddy. That they have won 55 games so far this year with this group is incredibly impressive. They will suck wins out of nowhere, out of every nook and cranny. I don't think they're going to go get Skubal or Crochet, but I would not be surprised to see them add a starting pitcher at the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, I will say we do definitely need to give some credit to Colin Ray, who we knew was going to be a part of this rotation. You know, he's leading the team in innings. But man, Tobias Myers, man, this dude's got a 3.13 in 13 starts in 72 innings. Now, again, are they ecstatic to hand Tobias Myers the ball for a postseason game? Probably not. But I will say that, like, that's at least a third starter that is going to help them get through the second half of the season. That's 3, though, and that's including Colin Ray. So, and the Bryce Wilson has kind of bounced back and forth. It doesn't seem like they really want him starting regularly. So you're absolutely right. They have a ton. I think they've already released Dallas Keuchel, so he got 4 starts from him. So they have to be going after some guys. And this is really, we'll talk about Cleveland. You know, Cleveland went out and signed Matt Boyd coming off Tommy John because they think he can help their rotation. I would expect Milwaukee to be trying any kind of version of that. And then Savali, right? That's the other main one. They just traded for Savali. So that's clearly someone that they believe in. That, you know, he looked pretty solid in his first 2 starts with them. So that's the other starter for them that we can keep an eye on. But I totally agree. You have to imagine they're going to be going after another one.
Cardinals in second place right now. They also need probably one more arm. The interesting thing with the Cardinals on the offensive side is that Edman's going to be back soon, and they just got Lars Nootbaar back, and their biggest issue is in the outfield, right? In center, it's been Dylan Carlson and Michael Ciani, and that's been one of the worst, the worst center field production in like the league, in the whole league, right? So whether they try and upgrade on the offensive side of the ball will be interesting to see. They could probably use one more bench bat, maybe. I don't know if they'll trade for it. What I like about the Cardinals, right? They have all these moving pieces, like Edman and Brendan Donovan can move around and do a lot of different things. I don't think they'll add on the offensive side, but they definitely need a starting pitcher. Anything on them, or else I'm going to speed on to Cincinnati.
Well, I would just mention, I don't know what the plan for Jordan Walker is, and I don't know what the likelihood that Lars Nootbaar could play center field regularly, but that would be another kind of move that they could make if they do finally feel like Jordan Walker can help their offense and they're tired of getting a 500 OPS from center field. That would be another thing to keep an eye on there. But man, once again with the Cardinals, Alec Burleson, what a find. He has been so big for that offense. And now that Wilson Contreras is back, this lineup is finally starting to look like the best version that I was kind of picking when I picked them to win the division.
Sorry to the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are actually the team we should talk about next, because they're above the Reds and the Cardinals in the standings right now. You know about Paul Skeens and how good their pitching has been, but that has hid in some ways just how terrible this offense
not above
is
the
at
Cardinals.
times.
They're not above the
Sorry,
Cardinals. They are
above the
Reds. Reds and the Cubs. They are above the Reds and the Cubs, yes.
Yeah, so this is just offense. They will not trade for a starting pitcher. Maybe they could use a reliever. I think their biggest area of weakness is center field. The Michael Taylor, Jack Sawinski platoon is just not fun to look at often. Rowdy has turned things around, but this offense, more than anything else, just needs a consistent bopper in the middle of the order. And whether that's someone who plays an outfield corner, whether that's someone who I guess is... there's just not an obvious...
I mean, listen, they have guys to trade.
Luis Robert is like the perfect...
Or
fit.
Randy, right?
Or Randy.
Yeah.
Right.
It would require a level of aggression that we haven't quite seen yet from them. But like, if they want to package some of their super young pitchers and they just added a whole bunch more talent in the draft on the offensive side of the younger and certainly high school level, but they have a ton of pitchers that I guarantee you they could deal. Not Jared Jones, not any of the guys at the top. I'm talking, double A and below. If they really want to put some of those together and trade for a Randy Arozarena, I bet they could. But it would, that would be a very aggressive maneuver at this stage there. I would commend it. As much as I love a lot of those pitchers, it would be nice to see Pittsburgh actually make an aggressive maneuver. The problem is they're operating right within the box of we're not spending any money. And so Ben Cherington has to decide when to make that aggressive maneuver to acquire some impact talent, because it's not coming to free agency.
And that's why I think they should go trade for Luis Robert, because that's not a player that's easy to find.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I understand he's hurt a lot. I get that. But it is, to me, it is a risk worth taking for that specific guy.
And that's a much more, again, Mariners fans talk about trade for Luis Robert. Like, trade for Luis Robert, so much of the value is like he's also one of the best defensive center fielders. And like you already have that in Julio. So having not that Luis Robert would make the Mariners better, but like this center field is such an obvious hole for Pittsburgh that would be solved that way that I agree. I think that they are a team that would make some sense there. Now, which of those teams or which team beyond them is more equipped to trade for Robert? That's a different discussion, but we'll see. I mean, I think they are sort of close to the Nationals in the sense that, and I could be totally wrong about this, that it's like with what you've had come up with Skeens, with Jones, like with some of the younger players, like you're already feeling pretty good and you are kind of looking forward to the next year anyway, that I feel like even if they hold steady, that people are feeling pretty good, almost kind of like the Reds last year too. But I don't know. You also view it as, listen, you have the opportunity to make the postseason. You got to go for it when you're the Pirates.
And the thing with, okay, so who's the starting center fielder for the 2025 Pittsburgh Pirates, right? They don't have like a top prospect in center field in AAA waiting to come up, right? Yeah, whatever really, that player next year is probably going to be from outside the organization. It's like be like a Kevin Kiermaier flyer or something, right? So like go get Robert or go get Randy and give that a shot. Two more teams in this division, the Reds. The Reds are really confusing. They just have so many injured hitters, and I don't know when they're coming back. You have a better sense of this than me. Do they need to make a trade for one more bat in the outfield?
I don't know. I mean, Marte is now back and in the mix. He's, back from suspension. McLean does not seem like he is going to be back anytime soon, but I don't know if Friedel or Fairchild maybe more so, but Friedel, I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, again, I'm not around them all the time anymore. But that's another team where, last year they really stayed put. They just traded for Sam Maul and called it a day. And that ended up being the difference. They missed the postseason by like 2 games. No, yeah, to be fair, Sam Maul was amazing, but like they did not get the help enough help that they needed. They did not push in aggressively enough to really get it. Because they really were right there at the very, very, very end. They were still mathematically alive on the last weekend of the season. It didn't really feel like it because there was all those other NL teams we were talking about. But yeah, no, they're another team that offensively could certainly use some help, but they're with Pittsburgh where I just don't know and I would argue they have less to deal from. That level of farm system is not as strong right now.
And then the Cubs, with a very hot finish to the first half, have clawed their way back into it. They're now 3.5 back. I think with Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Chicago, they'll stand pat for the next 2 weeks until as long as they possibly can before the deadline, to see where they're at, whether they should sell, sit, or buy. I think the Cubs need relief help big time. And then they need anybody who bangs. Like they just need one more dude who freaking rakes. And then their catching situation has been so bad. Like Miguel Amaya is just not it. And I understand that trading for catchers in the middle of the season is really complicated. This is the one team where I think they could use a little bit of help, whether that's like Danny Jansen, like take a flyer on him from Toronto.
Danny Jansen, I was thinking about him. That's like a real starting catcher that I think a lot of teams would like to have. And yeah, I mean, they're already scrambling to bring in Tomas Nido in the middle of the season. Like that kind of tells you all that you need to know. And, God bless Moises Ballesteros, but doesn't feel like he's going to be the answer behind the plate, at least not this year. So yeah, that's one. But the Cubs might find themselves in a situation where it's like, listen, it's not working. We gotta trade Bellinger, or we gotta trade Bellinger. It's the other one that I'm watching closely. I don't know. That's a tough contract to trade, I would imagine, with those being player options. That seems pretty difficult. But I have to mention they might try. Yeah.
Bellinger is a $27.5 million player option for next year and for 2026. He has not played well enough where you can imagine him opting out of that. And so if you trade for him, you're taking a risk that if he gets hurt or he stinks, then you're kind of stuck with him for that amount of money for the next 2 years. Certain teams just won't trade for that because they're not willing to take that risk. The other guys that they could trade, Jorge Lopez is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And then Hector Neris has a $9 million team option at the end of this year. If they do try and sell, again, it's not that sexy, but he's not the worst pitcher in a lot of bullpens right now.
No, I agree with that. I was just going to say that it's like, all right, so you could either try to patch up the bullpen and make him run the third wild card, or you could make your terrible bullpen even worse, and that's a great way to tank.
Yeah, it's the best way to tank.
Yeah, is to really. But it's just, God, they're just in such a bad spot with these contracts. It's just not an obvious thing to deal, right? Like trading Hap with 3 years left, trading Tyon with 3 years left. Like, ugh. I don't know. They are the team that I would be in the most uncomfortable situation, because Toronto at this point, it feels like the fans are like, screw this, blow this up. This is a joke. This is an embarrassment. Like, we need to clean house. This has failed, right? Whereas the Cubs, it's like, oh man, like really, like we were really gonna, like not that they had these core. I don't know, that one I just feel really, I do not feel good about. No matter what direction they go in, I am not going to feel good. Whereas the Blue Jays, it feels like they're at least starting to accept reality.